Welcome back to The Rewind. I'm your host, Spencer Tracy. We are back for episode 36. I've been off the air for, I want to say a week or two now, but I'm back. Like I said, I've got 2 jobs now starting up, so I'm a busy man. And, we're working out of pocket here, but this is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a little hurtful because my guest today, we're just going to dig into the Giants' just atrocious season so far. But let me introduce you to my guest. We got a Bay Area diehard fan, the former host of the Anuj Changavi show, one of the brightest brains in media. Anuj Changavi, welcome to The Rewind.
What is up, dude? That was a hell of an intro.
I went all in for it.
That was Jason Kelsey right there on New Heights. I felt like I feel honored. I need that on repeat, to go off for my ego. So thank you for having me on, dude. I appreciate it. I love what you're building here. I love to support anything that you do. And I'm excited to dig into what's been an understatedly bad season for the Giants.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, I don't care if you're Mr. Optimistic. I try to be optimistic as much as possible, especially before June. But I'm running out of ammo here to shoot and to defend this team, especially games like today. We're recording Wednesday, May 27th, the day after the Giants were swept by the D-backs for the second time this season. That's got to be a bad record, right? To be swept twice by a team before June. That's hard to do.
It's
really tough. I mean, just completely outplayed. But yeah, we're going to get all that. We're going to dig into the biggest problem. Who's to blame for this disastrous of a season? Potential trade landing spots for some of the Giants players up in there in the salary cap. Some of the guys that are balling out right now. But you know what? We always got to end with a positive note. So we're going to end with some guys that we're looking forward to watching throughout this season, even if it means we're playing meaningless baseball in August, which is what it's looking like. Usually September, but maybe August for these guys. But Anuj, let's start with the biggest problem of this team. What's the biggest issue?
Look, for me, when it comes to the biggest issue, I think it's got to be on the 3 guys. I think a lot of people are going to go to, Buster Posey or Tony Vitello or some of the organizational decisions that were made in the offseason that created this kind of flawed roster. But for me, I think when you surround a team that's when you're kind of I think the Giants, I believe, are 15th in payroll. And when you have a team that's, spending some money and that has some quality big leaguers on the roster, the onus should go on the guys in which the contracts have been given to. And the biggest contracts have been given to Willy Adames, Matt Chapman, and Rafi Devers, who for a month and a half have consistently underperformed at all aspects of the game, whether it's defense, whether it's base running, whether it's offensively. And I get it. Willy's picked up, and Rafi certainly has picked up the last month with his hitting, and he's kind of looking like the hitter that we traded for back last June. But I just think that there's a lot of just inconsistency with the at-bats. And I know you and I have talked at length about, Rafi Devers' swing and particularly with Willy Adames' base running mistakes and how boneheaded they seem. But I think the majority of it really has to come down to those 3 guys. Because if those 3 guys are going, this Giants team is going, and they haven't been going, and that's why you're, 11 games under. So,
yeah, for the first time they've been, I think 12 games under now since
12 games
2019.
Under, yeah.
2019. Wow. And we know those teams, once they get farther into the 2010 era, they just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then that one miracle year in 2021. But absolutely. Last year, the team got off to an awesome start. Willy Adames was not part of that reason really at all. He was looking terrible, but all of it was he wasn't really under the spotlight because, you had guys playing great. Your pitching was awesome. And it was the offense that was struggling, but you were still in first place. Like, we were headed into that Dodgers series in first place when we went and traded out for Rafael Devers to really give that offense a boost and to show the locker room, hey, we're going to try and win this year. We're in first place. We just got one of the best left-handed hitters in the game. Let's go make a push. But when you're 12 games, 10 games under and no one's hitting, you're 200, 190 average as the guy at shortstop, Willy Adames, is going to stand out a little bit more, as you said. And it's becoming it's becoming one of the biggest problems this team. Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah,
And
who else is to blame other than, would you say, the big names at the, like, offensively? What about the pitching staff? Who do you put more of the blame on the pitching staff?
yeah, I mean, Tyler Mahle has been awful this year. There's no sugarcoating it. I mean, I get it. He's a number 5 starter. You kinda paid him to be a 5 starter, but you sunk a lot of money into guys like Adrian Hauser and Tyler Mahle to expect them to be sort of solid 4th and 5 starters who were gonna, play maybe 5, 6 innings of, 1 to 2 run ball, and that just simply hasn't been the case this year. It's been a lot of just, crafting. It's been a lot of just kind of hoping and praying when those guys are out there. I mean, you look at the pitch counts; they're up to 50 and 60 by innings 4 and 5, and it's not looking, or by innings 3 and 4, and it's just not looking great. I mean, they allow guys on; their walk percentages are high, and just with those two, particularly when they start, it's no longer like, oh my gosh, like we have to work. You have to consistently worry about those, being behind 2-0, 3-0 early on in games, and I think that that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to get any better from Ali. He hasn't
Yeah,
thrown he hasn't reached 90 innings pitched since his 2022 season, where he threw 120 innings. He's at 56 right now. Like you said, he's walking almost four guys per 9 innings. And he's got a 6 ERA right now. He just can't figure it out. And I saw a quote from Tony in an interview with KMBR. This was before the game today. Tony was asked about Molly's struggles, and he said, "I think if there was one glaring thing for him to improve upon, it could be addressed in the bullpen or the video room. A change of scenery could help a guy move on in a different direction." He was asked, he doesn't see Adrian Hauser leaving the rotation. He quote said, "I think we are set with Hauser." I think that's because you're tied for 2 years with Hauser. You
yeah,
gave him the player friendly one. You can't. It's hard to move a guy like that. Mally's on the 1 year, but to basically what he said was, we don't see the problem in the video room, and over time he hasn't made enough, like, the adjustments just haven't stuck. So maybe it's time for a change of scenery. A change of scenery means you're off the team. You're playing for someone else, straight up. Like, that is as transparent as a manager will ever get, talking
yeah.
about trading a player on his team. Um, I mean, what do you have to make of that?
Totally. I mean, look, Tyler Mahle is like, when they paid him, a 1 year deal, you were expecting him to be a 5th starter. So I do give him some charity in the sense of like, I'm not expecting this guy to go out there and throw 7, 8 innings of, no run ball every
Yeah.
night. That's not what I'm expecting him to be. But what I'm expecting him to be is a guy who just consistently goes out there, limits the damage, and puts the bullpen in a position to succeed. And that just frankly hasn't been the case. I also think, though, to be fair to Tony Vitello's comments, like I think a lot of this has to do with Trevor McDonald and the rise of his kind of stature. Even though he got shelled on Friday against the White Sox, he's looked really good in his outings, particularly the outing against the Dodgers and particularly the outing against the A's. Those two outings, he was sharp in both. And what I like about McDonald is like there will be moments where he does struggle or where he gives up a double or gives up maybe, a couple base hits here and there, but he always rebounds and he grits it out. I mean, particularly that Dodgers game is a great example of that, where they had the bases loaded. I believe it was the bottom of the 4th. And he just, I think it was no outs, and he just went out there and figured out a way to get a couple outs for the team, and they ended up giving up, I think, 1 run. So that was, that's an example of a guy who could take kind of Mally's spot because, I mean, frankly, he's been pitching a lot better, and I think that Tony V is probably looking at his starting rotation and he's thinking, "Gosh, I got to get Trevor McDonald out here instead of what's been going on at the 5 starter, particularly with Logan Webb coming back into the fold soon."
Yeah, if push comes to shove and you just have to eat that contract, and Malik gets to sit on the couch, for most of the season. If it's to get Trevor McDonald starts, I mean, at this point of the year, you're out of it. We'll get into more of
Yeah.
that into that later. Um, but yeah, the start he got shelled on, I think he walked a handful of guys. I just don't
Mhm.
think he had his stuff. So one start out of like you've said, he's been brilliant. He was great today, I think, too. Lost a 3-2 game. A tough one. I went through 6 innings. I think he went into the 7th inning. So,
Right.
he's great. I'm a big fan of him as well. I think my biggest problem with this team is they have no momentum. Like you can totally point your finger at any specific thing: the pitching, coaching, the offense, the big name players, the guys who have their poster out in front of Oracle Park. Absolutely, you're correct. You can't miss in this question. But for me, it's the momentum, because there's been a few times, a few stretches of games where we are like, you know what? This team might be figuring it out here. This team might be kind of coming together a little bit. Um, and I'm gonna run you through them. The Dodgers come to town, and we take 2 out of 3 versus them, right? We lose that Tyler Glasnow game where he absolutely dominates us, like 1 hits us or something. Miami comes to town, not a team you want to sleep on anymore. Very good, youthful team. We get smoked in game 1. We come back, we beat them games 2 and 3. We win the series. Okay, here we go. Now we're playing a road trip against teams like the Nationals, not very good teams at the time. We lose 6 straight, including 3 walk-offs, which also included a team that just fired their manager in the Philadelphia Phillies, who have now since figured it out. Okay, so that was a dud. We go back to LA. We win the first 2 games in LA there. And then we get outscored. What?
And looked good in those 2 games, too.
And we looked great in those games.
Yeah.
We absolutely smoked the Dodgers. We won that game by like the 7th or 8th inning. Those games were over. Then we get out. We're like, okay, we're back. Instead of thinking we're going to get swept by this team, let's just not get swept. Now we're thinking, let's sweep. What do? We get outscored 4-14 the next 3 games, losing all 3 of those. Right? After that, we're still in Sacramento. We beat the A's 2 games out of 3. So we respond to that with 2 games out of 3. Then we go to Arizona. The offense is clicking, right? Harrison Bader's hit a grand slam. We just we put up an 8-run inning. Like, this offense is clicking. We're going to go to Arizona. We're going to go to the desert. It's hot. We're facing a pitching series where it's not that impressive. Ryan Nelson's in the 5s. Zach Gallen he's a bottom 5 rotation arm now. We get smoked by the A's. Absolutely smoked. The D-backs, sorry. Yeah. So there's 3 instances where we felt a little momentum, and just once we turn the corner to keep that momentum, we look back and it's not there anymore. Then we turn around again, boom, we get smoked by something. The only team this year to not have a sweep this season is the San Francisco Giants. Every other team, go through any other team that's having a problem this year, they figured out to win 3 straight games against the same team. Giants just can't do that. They can't put together any momentum. Something gets lodged. Offense goes quiet. Can't get guys in from scoring position. And then you can even pinpoint different games too. Today, get off to an early 2-0 lead. Giants didn't get a hit until I think it was the 7th inning. Between the 3rd and the 7th inning, they didn't get a single hit. Where'd the offense go? D-backs, scrappy. I look at the D-backs team. Very different when how they approach their plate appearances, right? 1st and 2nd, 1 out, Gage comes in. Guy hits they're down 1. Guy hits a broken bat, roll over to Gage. Tries to, easy 2nd out, right? Kicks it. There's an error. Bases loaded. What does he try to do now? Is he trying to hit a grand slam? No. Sack fly. Boom. Now the game's tied. That's just great base. They just don't do that. They don't do that. They swing 100%. Through fastballs, as you were talking about. And that comes down to what you were saying. The big name guys just not playing up to the standard.
Yeah, I mean, momentum. Today is a great example of that. I mean, they get off to a good start, and then kind of Arizona scraps back into the game. But at that point, with a good baseball team, you expect them, okay, 7th inning and later, like, this is where you turn it on. You try to get a couple runs, you try to close the thing out. But they did, I mean, and they were starting to do that, right? You had a Rise who got I think it was the leadoff double in the 8th or the 7th, to kind of, get into scoring position. And then, of course, right on cue, you have a classic base running mistake from Willy Adames. Like, it's like the momentum just gets quelled. And then after that, Arise gets picked off at the 2nd out and 2 quick outs. And suddenly you don't even get to Rafi Devers and Casey Schmidt, who've been your 2 hottest hitters on the team. And that is putting your team in positions to fail, not to succeed. And, as a result, you end up losing the game 3-2. And here you are, you're 0-6 against a division rival this year who, frankly, on a roster basis, like, you might be equal to, if not better than, talent wise, and you just you can't find a way to win a game against Arizona. And I mean, I think it's a microcosm of what the season's turned into.
100%. And to go back to season expectations, I've been kind of going through my brain because I had my projections for this season for the NL West. I had this team coming in second place behind the Dodgers. I thought this was an 86 win team. Couple of those wins, I was like, you know what, realist, probably, in the mid 80s I could see, but I think this team's over 500. I understand there was a question about the pitching and how that was going to come into into effect, but I was like, this offense seems good. We got better defensively in center field. Like, this is a pretty good team. They just stopped playing.
Totally.
Like, I don't
No,
know,
I
what
mean,
were your expectations of this season?
same. I had him about 86 to 87 wins because when you look at the infield just on paper, I mean, you have Devers, Arise, Adames and Chapman as your 4 infielders, and that looks like a hell of an infield. I mean, just like on paper, and I figured like, okay, if those guys can stay healthy because, Chappie did miss a lot of time last year with the wrist, and, Willie was a little bit of an Iron Man last year, but Arise has had some question marks and Devers as well. I figured, okay, if those guys stay healthy, I mean, you could easily win 85, 86 games, kind of similar to what you were saying, and maybe give the Dodgers a little bit of a push come September, come early October. But I mean, the way it's looking, I mean, I think the way it looked was like, the way the season started, I think was like kind of a great example of why this season has sort of turned into the way it what does. I mean, getting swept by the Yankees, getting shut out the first 2 games of the series. I mean, just brutal. Like this team put themselves into a hole before the season even really started, and I think they've just been fighting from behind the whole time. And like you said, every time they get a little, they take one step back, it's 1 step forward, it's 4 steps back, and they're kind of just putting themselves further and further down this deep rabbit hole. And I mean, 11 games under right after Memorial Day, like this isn't where you want to be.
No, this is not what we want, especially in this division
Yeah,
where
in
you
this division
have
too.
AJ Preller, who's the GM of the Padres, and he will never quit on his team. He will put all of his prospects out there to keep his team
Totally.
competitive out there on the market. You have the Dodgers, who aren't going anywhere for at least another decade until that Ohtani and all those contracts get up. And then the D-backs, who are somehow the biggest problem for this team right now. We are now 0-6 in 6 games against the
Yeah.
D-backs, which leaves Colorado. And my goodness, if we struggle against Colorado this weekend, it's that's a whole other story.
They have what,
Um,
Colorado and then Milwaukee, Chicago, right? There's that big Midwest road trip.
Chicago, who's on a 9-game skid right now. They've lost.
Oh, okay.
They've taken a huge step back. But that roster is
That
good.
is good.
That
I mean,
roster's good.
even
Again, I
Milwaukee
think this
too.
team, this on roster against, like, next to each other. I'm like, you know what? This team could take a game or two. But given how they've been playing, we're probably gonna get smoked.
Yeah, I mean, like this, like again, like another momentum killer. Like you take 2 of 3 from the White Sox, who are kind of an ascending young team,
Good team.
with a lot of Murakami's nice. They got a lot of really nice young players, and you take 2 of 3, and you're coming into this Arizona series, particularly on Memorial Day. You're like, okay, like can we put out a show? Can we get one against the D-backs and kind of just go from there? And then boom, you lose 6-2 on Monday. Tuesday, another loss, and today was just another example of just kind of like, 2 sweeps within a matter of what, 2.5 weeks against this team,
Yeah.
and it's just not going to cut it. It's really not.
Yeah. It's not. And you think, who are who are the most important factors to get a team back on the right tracks, get the momentum going? It's the manager, the guy who's in the clubhouse with all the guys, and the guy who's picking the 26 players to play for his team. That's Buster Posey and Tony Vitello. You look at this team where they're at. They're the only team they're above right now in the National League is the Colorado Rockies, which says a lot. Who gets the biggest blame? You have Buster Posey to your left, you have Tony Vitello to your right. Who are you pointing your finger at as the main reason for why this team is in such a big hole?
I mean,
Can't
it
go to the
has.
players. I know the players, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it has to be Buster. Like I love Buster. Obviously, potential Hall of Fame catcher, has done amazing things in his Giants playing career. But as a front office exec, like yes, he had the amazing move with Rafi Devers, which I still think has the potential to potentially, get past, like, or has the potential to really be a franchise cornerstone. Besides that trade, like, and the trade and some of the prospects that he was able to get for Doval and Rogers last year, like Parks Harbor and Jesus Rodriguez and things like that, have panned out well, I believe, for this team. And we'll kind of see it when Parks Harbor comes up to the major leagues. But other than that, I mean, like, he had one goal this off, or he had one thing to do in this offseason, in my opinion, which was to rebuild and reconstruct that bullpen, particularly with Randy Rodriguez going out this season with Tommy John. You needed a closer. You needed other guys in the bullpen that have defined roles. When I look at the best bullpens, when I look at this Giants team from 2010, 2012, 2014, the one common thing they had was a bullpen with defined guys. There were particular pitchers who would pitch different innings for different situations, and Bochy knew exactly what levers to pull based on what situation that they were in. And I think that now, like with this team, it's just like it feels like Tony Vitello is kind of experimenting on the fly, which again, I don't blame him because like his personnel isn't great, but Posey didn't put Vitello in the position to succeed with his bullpen. Like there's no there, the arms that they have are not particularly like dynamic in any way. I like Miller, I like Gage, but I mean Brubaker, like he hasn't been great at all. I mean, you have a guy in Ryan Walker who got optioned to AAA. He was supposed to be a huge part of your bullpen. It's supposed to be a guy who was going to eat up a lot of innings, and all of a sudden by Memorial Day, he's not even on the roster anymore. Like I believe Posey did kind of a bad job in constructing this bullpen, and I think he may have overestimated a lot of guys' potential in the bullpen, and didn't get enough arms to compensate. But I also give him some charity in the sense of Jose Budo, who I believe was supposed to be a big part of this season, obviously out with the blood clot in his arm, and Joel Peguero is someone who I think that who I thought and had pegged as kind of an X factor in this bullpen. He really hasn't been much of a factor, because he's been injured and kind of working his way back. But other than those two guys, I mean, there isn't really like a lot of bright spots, in my opinion, in this bullpen. Maybe besides Eric Miller, and I mean, even Eric Miller of late hasn't looked super great, and I think he's playing out of his
I was gonna
role. He was
say.
supposed to be kind of an eighth, ninth inning guy, and now they're playing him in the sixth and the seventh, and because of the Ryan Walker demotion to AAA, and all of a sudden the bullpen just kind of looks like a mess. When early in the season, I mean, they kind of looked like they were one of the best bullpens in baseball.
Yeah, it was a big question. There was a stretch where they were one of the better bullpens in the league, and it was looking promising. Probably one of the stretches when they were starting to win games. Funny how that always works out, right? And yeah, games like today. Like Gage came in, kicked the ball around, gave up some hits. Some of those blowouts were the bullpen was a big victim to that as well. Just couldn't get any outs and couldn't help their pitchers. Um, and this offense is only capable of consistently putting together 2 or 3 runs. And so it puts a lot of stress too on the team.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I think there's a lot of control. Like Peguero is supposed to be a good one. Eric Miller and Ryan Walker were like the two guys that were like, okay, those are our bullpen guys. Who are we going to fill with? And Miller's been dealing with injuries. Walker's too inconsistent. So big head scratcher. I got to agree with you, man. I got to go with Posey as well as who I'm going to blame here. I just think I just think he kind of I like his instincts to pull the trigger, right? He just went, I'm not going to wait for the trade deadline. I'm going to go get Rafael Devers now while they're having all that drama in Boston. I'm going to go get him now because this team needs offense. This season, cutting ties with Bailey, needs Susak to get at bats, bring up Rodriguez. But the playing, then you call up Eldridge, which was a popular thing to do, was to bring up the top prospect to get some noise, right? Seattle did it with Emerson when they were really struggling. The Cleveland was really struggling. They brought up Bazana. Now they're ahead they're in first in the AL Central. It's a bad division, but you see the Yankees who hit a little skid. They brought up Spencer Jones, and so Posey was like, let's bring up Eldridge. Let's get some pop into that lineup, and get him up. He was killing it in AAA. Now's the time. Let's do it. And he's playing twice, 3 times a week. Like we knew it was going to be tough because you had Schmidt going red hot. You had Chapman who was already playing. Arise needs at bats every day, and Devers is at first. So your DH is kind of all clogged. The only position that he can play is first base. That's clogged. And so then you're doing this like, okay, well, everyone, you play for 2 days, you sit the third day, kind of moving everyone around the rotation. How are you expecting to get any momentum by doing that? This isn't quarterbacking in the NFL where you can sit back and learn from Matthew Stafford or whoever the veteran quarterback is. Like, you need at bats to get better. Like, no one calls up their top prospect and lets them sit there for a while. And now you're calling up this cluster of an infield. You're forcing Schmidt into left field, and you're putting it on a manager who's managed 2 months of Major League Baseball.
You're totally right. I think the Bryce Eldridge handling has just been, at this point, it's been malpractice. I mean, it's been like to the point where, on Saturday, he had a couple hits in that win against the White Sox. And what happened the next day? He was benched. I mean, it's like, for him, he must be thinking like, okay, like I'm making positive progress here hitting wise. And all of a sudden I can't even sniff an at bat the next day after I have a 2-hit day, So it's got to be tough for the kid. I mean, he says all the right things in the press conferences and things like that. But I mean, the reality is like to develop a young guy, like they need reps, and particularly in baseball, like to be a good major league hitter, you need to see major league pitching. There's only so much work you can do in the cage and at batting practice that's going to help you. Like at some point, you got to see a major league fastball and be able to make those split second decisions, whether to lay off a pitch or whether to swing at it. And I think that when it comes to Bryce Eldridge, and just like if you want to like look at the overall long-term outlook of the San Francisco Giants, he's going to be the centerpiece, or he's supposed to be the centerpiece of this team come 10 years from now, come 5 years from now. And so if he's supposed to be the centerpiece, we have to, like, this organization has to start acting like he's the centerpiece and really has to do whatever they can to make sure that he is a hit. Because if he's not, I mean, Posey is, frankly, I mean, he's the best prospect in the system. So there's a lot of question marks if they don't handle this right.
All right, welcome back. We are going to dig into some potential trade landing spots for some of the guys that are underperforming. Giants trying to get some large contracts off their salary cap, especially going into this offseason, which there will be all these new rules about salary cap and player salaries, all that stuff. So it's going to get hectic, but that's in December. But let's get to some potential trade candidates for these Giants players. Anuj, you've had one in mind that you've been talking to me about for a bit. I'll let you lead off.
Okay. So I know this might make a segment of the Giants fan base a little unhappy, but let's be real. Okay, Matt Chapman has not been performing up to his contract recently, and I think that he's obviously getting a little older. And yes, he is a former Gold Glover, but the defense has dipped a little bit this year at the hot corner. I think that we could see potentially a Matt Chapman trade to the New York Yankees is where I think that he could go. And the reason why I really feel like this is a good fit is because, first of all, I think that New York could use all the help they could get at the hot corner, particularly at third base. I mean, a good, solid defender, someone who won't make too many mistakes. Yeah, he's prone to maybe a few here and there, but overall, I mean, Matt Chapman is still a very solid defender and a very capable defender at third base. On top of the fact that, like, I think he is sort of the piece that they're kind of looking for in terms of someone who could take advantage of that short porch. A lot of his swings are kind of, I believe the short porch is to right. So a lot of his swings are to right and could potentially do a lot of damage with batting, particularly in Yankee Stadium. So I think that, Matt Chapman is a good option to the Yanks. Now, the Giants may have to eat a little bit or a lot of the money, but I do think that to get his contract off the books and kind of start anew and allow Casey Schmidt to really finally play at his original position would be a good thing for both. And I think the Yankees would get a guy that they're looking for, a good veteran bat, someone who's solid at that third base position, someone who could potentially even mentor Anthony Volpe, a young shortstop there, if they don't want to throw him into the deal, who I was telling Spencer about earlier. Like, I think I would kind of enjoy if Anthony Volpe got a change of scenery and came to Oracle Park, maybe to partner up with Casey Schmidt at that hot corner and potentially see what he's got.
They love Caballero, so whatever gets Caballero more playing time, because he's been kind of hitting for him. And Volpe, and he's an excellent defender. That was a given. He can steal bases, and Volpe just hasn't been doing that. But McMahon, however you want to say it, He was acquired because they needed third base help. They needed some defensive help, and Ryan's is always in contention for Gold Gloves, as is Chapman. But he has been hitting. He's hitting under 200 right now. And I know there was 1 or 2 weeks this season where it looked like he was going to be playable at third, but he just hasn't been. And he's on the books until next season, I believe. Chapman will be his contract his contract expires 2030. So the Giants will eat that money until then. But yeah, I could see him getting a little arm back for them. The Yankees, you could probably persuade the Yankees. Buster's got some good persuasive techniques in trade talks. He's proven that with his track record in trades so far in 2 years of running the club. So Yankees love to spend money. Maybe you can ask them to take on less money. So that could be a potential move for them. Likely Yankees like to make that aggressive move. So I could see it happening. I know it's been floated around a bit. I just think they're tied to McMahon, and with this offensive clutter, unless they add another one of their infielders to relieve some of that stress, because they're kind of in the same spot where they're trying to play Volpe. They like Caballero. They're trying to play Caballero. I know he's played maybe some outfield. So I know it's gotten a little hectic there. They've got Jazz there. They've got McMahon. So it's been tough. And I think adding another infield in that mix can get chaotic. So there could be a deal worked out where they include a Volpe, or it's a flip for McMahon. And the positive is, instead of holding on to Chapman through 2030, we have to hold on to McMahon just for one more season. So that could be discussed in the deal, but not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Yeah,
Chapman has been on the trade block on a lot of Giants media's minds for
for sure.
this season
I mean,
specifically.
I do think in a lot of ways he is sort of the most tradable of the big three, in that I don't think the Giants want to trade Rafi because he's someone, again, he's hitting the ball better. The at-bats are starting to look a little better. The swing's kind of coming together. So he's not someone you want to get rid of, particularly since he is such a threatening hitter when he's on. And Adames, I struggle to foresee teams that really want to pay for a veteran shortstop who's lacking in range, who's lacking on defense, and whose base running IQ has looked kind of shabby at best this year. And the swinging and the at bats from Adames have not been good enough to sort of justify those other mistakes. So I don't see why and how they would be able to trade Willie unless it would be something where they would be eating a lot of the money and kind of getting ripped off in a deal.
Right. Yeah. Willie also has that no trade clause,
Yeah.
which I think Adames might have as well. He does have a no trade clause. Okay. He does have a no trade clause, and he's under contract through 2030 as well. So 2030 is a big year where we hope to see the Johnny Levels, the Luis
Oswald
Hernandez, Joswar
Rodriguez
Gonzalez, all
or
those guys
Gonzalez. Yeah.
up by like 2031 or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop over to second base. The best offseason addition the Giants made, which it was a quiet offseason, so not a long list. But Hauser and Bader's starts of the year, Hauser's starts of the year, and Malley probably being DFA'd pretty soon have made it pretty easy that Arise has been the best guy that they've added to this team in 2026. And team friendly contracts, I think it's only 10 or 11 million just for one season. But they took a gamble on him defensively. Awful defender coming into this. The bat to ball skill is obviously off the charts. But he's been spectacular at second base this season. He's been spectacular. And you could honestly point to a lot of teams that could use him. Team friendly contract, just 1 year. So if you want to extend him, you could. If not, he's off your books. He plays defense, great back to ball guy, can hit lefties and righties. Won't provide the pop, but he's a great inning starter. He's a leadoff guy, can get guys on. So he fits a lot of teams. And I'm thinking a lot of guys could overpay for this. And this is the positive of having Luis Ariz in this discussion is you can do what the Mavericks should have done with Luka Doncic. You can kind of shop him around like, all right, who's got the best offer? Who wants to give up the most for this guy? And that's the one you obviously take. For me, I think the Tampa Bay Rays are looking at a really bad American League. And they're like, you know what? The Yankees are pretty vulnerable. Other than the Braves, we might be the best team in the league. We can't lose at home at the Trop. The AL Central, like the Guardians are the best team. After that, the next best team's like 500. And the AL West is a total disaster. No one wants to win that division. You've got the A's who can't pitch but have a great offense because they play in a AAA ballpark. Um, Angels off, it's just a mess of a division. I think the Rays like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's go for it. We've got the lineup top to bottom. Let's go get a cheap contract, throw him in at second base. They don't really have a sustainable second baseman right now. You don't lose the defense because you're already kind of holding your breath with Caminero at third right now, and you still get that defense at second. And I think you'd fit fantastic. It's a pitcher's park, but there's a lot of turf out there. Um, and I don't think you have a great minor league system, so I think you can give up some product there without totally losing all your prospects. Plus, if there's one thing the Rays are really great at, it's reloading that farm system pretty effortlessly and going and acquiring guys and squeezing the most out of them too. So I think they can do that with Luis Ariz. I think that's a great fit for them. Um, I have one more for Luis Ariz. That's kind of it for my trade possibilities. Anuj, you want to go hit me with another one then?
Yeah. I think also not to go back to the Yankees again, but I do think that if Willy Adames were to be traded, because I think that's the contract that the Giants do most want to get rid of, I do think he could get traded to the Yankees. I mean, you look at a guy in Anthony Volpe, and as who just has not been performing to the level of the top. Who has not been performing to the top prospect hype that he once received. I mean, that position could potentially be open for the Yankees to make a move. I mean, Cashman's a guy who's aggressive. He'll go after a veteran bat, especially if the Giants are willing to eat some of that money. But I think a lot of the trading with Adames or Chapman, they have to accept the deal, which I do think that for the New York Yankees, both players would be open to. And B, I think that there has to be some level of commitment from Posey and the Giants that they're going to eat a good portion of those contracts, because nobody's going to take the
No.
full contract at face value. And I think that what's nice about the Yankees, particularly, is that they do have kind of a deeper farm. They may not have the best quality farm in the sense of the highest prospects and the highest quality, but they have a lot of good quality kind of spread out between all of their levels. And I think that there's a lot of gems that you can potentially find within those kind of even the double A or the single A levels that could, potentially bolster your core into the future. If not, with the way that guys are coming up within 2 to 3 years, it could potentially be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that ballpark would be a lot kinder to Adams's bat too,
That
and
too.
his power
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be New York would enjoy him over there. All right, my
Yeah.
last one that I had for Luis Ariz. This was a last minute topic. A great idea by Anuj. Better than just saying we both think the Giants should sell in a sell or buy segment. So good pivot by Anuj. But my other one, again, Luis Ariz, endless amount of landing spots. Everyone could use that team friendly contract with that skill set and the defense. The Cincinnati Reds, another small market team. I think they want to make a push this year. I think they're a really good team. They got Matt McClain and they got Ellie at short, so the middle infield's kind of stacked. They got Sal Stewart at first, so where are they going to go? Where are they going to fit him, Spencer? Well, Brian Hayes is atrocious at third base. His defense has still been all right, but his bat is hitting 179 this year. That's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. I think you can. Sal Stewart came up as a third baseman. He was a corner infield guy. You can move him to third. You can move Ariz back to first. He probably won't like that, but he'll be fine. You can move McClain to third, maybe. You could play around with that. I'm sure they'll find a home for him to fit him in there. But it's an offensive park. The ball flies in Cincinnati. Even we saw what happens when Ariz hits in an offensive park. I mean, he hit 2 home runs in a 3-game series in Sacramento. I mean, so the guy can, if he gets under, he's had a couple deep flyouts to that right center field corner at Oracle too. So if he really gets a hold of one, he can. But I think the offensive park, big gaps in left and right center field. I think he's first or he's in the top 3 in doubles right now because he's so good at finding the lines, finding triples alley. So I think the Reds could really benefit from that. They don't have to break the bank as well because that's a very small market team. I think it's a great fit for them too. The two small markets, the Reds and the Rays, those are my two picks for them. And do you have another one?
Yeah, no, I love the Arise one, but I think another guy that we really have to think about potentially trading is Robbie Ray. I think obviously he's on the block, and he's somebody that I think that a lot of teams, I mean, every team at the deadline is looking for more starting pitching, particularly if they want to make a postseason run, because the deeper your rotation, the better chances you have at kind of lasting the attrition of the postseason. And I think that there's going to be a lot of demand for Robbie Ray. And for me, I think I think obviously there's a lot of teams that could really use him. But how about a return to the Pacific Northwest for Robbie Ray, Seattle? That's a team that right now is kind of under 500. They're a couple games under 500. But in that division, it's pretty wide open right at the moment. It's a weaker division. And I think that a starting pitching push, particularly with a guy like Ray, who they potentially could get on the cheap. Seattle isn't an organization that's necessarily known to spend a ton of capital to get a guy at the deadline. So this would be kind of a lower risk, high reward move. And I think that potentially Robbie Ray could give them sort of the depth that they're looking for at pitching, to go alongside guys like Brian Wu and Logan Gilbert. I mean, bring in a third veteran starter like Robbie Ray. You could be looking at a playoff push and another guy who could, go 5, 6, 7 innings of 2-run ball, because that's what he's been doing here at San Francisco the last few years. And I think that they could. And in addition, I think it would be a good trade for the Giants, because I think there's a lot of prospects that are within the Mariner system. I'm not saying that they could get one of the top guys, but again, deep farm systems with a lot of quality guys, and there's some gems to be had for sure.
I really like that. I really like that pick. I can't believe. Shame on us for not mentioning Robbie Ray. I mean, that's him and
Yeah,
Arise are probably the most tradable players. 1-year contracts. They're playing good ball right now. Okay, I got a good one for Ray. I'm gonna go to the Texas Rangers. I think this team can really surpass the rest of that division. I think the Astros just don't have it this year. I think they're looking to sell. There's already rumors about Jordan getting moved. The A's have a huge pitching problem right now, but Robbie Ray's a weakness of giving up home runs was helped a little bit and cushioned by the atmosphere at Oracle in San Francisco, that hard place to hit. I think moving him to the Rangers is a great fit for him. I think adding him with Evaldi and DeGrom, you get some vets if you want to make a push pitching wise. They also have Gore, who's been a great lefty. He's starting to find his footing a little bit of a slow start, but he looks good. And then you've got in the bottom of their rotation, which is fine for now. You've got Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, the Vandy boys. I think they're fine, but I think if you want to make a playoff, you add Robbie Ray in there, and you get a guy you can really be confident that can kind of take over a game every now and then. He's had those 6-inning dominant outings where he gets 0-run support and we lose 2-1. And I think this offense is also clicking. Seager's going to get hot here soon. Nimmo's been great. They're going to get Wyatt Langford back. Jake Berger's been good. Josh Jung's hitting above 300 at third base. So no team has ever said we have too much pitching. No team has
sure.
said that. And you could definitely move a Leiter or a Rocker who, again, aren't pitching terrible. They're not unplayable like a Tyler Mahle. Their ERAs are, low 4s, mid 4s right now. So you could move them to the bullpen and just strengthen that bullpen. Fantastic. Great. But otherwise, you add Robbie Ray into a guy with Evaldi who dominates in the postseason. DeGrom is DeGrom. And Mackenzie Gore was already acquired as one of the better lefties in this offseason for a bunch of prospects. And then you throw in Robbie Ray, who's shown he's been comfortable right behind Logan Webb as the 2 guy. And I think on a team where he could be a 3, even better. Maybe we get a bidding war between Seattle and Texas.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great for the Giants?
Wouldn't that be great for the Giants? Whoever gets the best return. The best return gets Robbie Ray.
Yeah,
I can't believe we didn't think about him. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I think the reason we didn't think about Robbie Ray was because of that kind of bad outing that he had against Arizona Monday night. Yeah, so I think that he's been kind of not top of mind recently in terms of his value. But in terms of other players that we could potentially trade, I mean, this might be throwing one at the wall. I don't know what they could necessarily get for him, but how about Elliot Ramos Is he a
Dude,
guy that you potentially look at in
totally.
flipping? Yeah.
I think
I mean,
so. He's too inconsistent of a hitter, and he doesn't play enough defense to be like you can play every day. When he
100%.
doesn't hit, he's such a hole in this team, offensively and defensively. I get it. He's like at the end of the year, his numbers don't end up being bad, but I totally see it. He hasn't
Yeah.
been paid yet. Very cheap contract. Put him in an offensive park, and he'll thrive.
Yeah, I also think what's interesting with Ramos is that I think his league value is maybe a little bit higher than what Giants fans think his value is, because I think that he still has that, like, also, like, people will look at kind of the box score resume of Elliot Ramos, for lack of a better metaphor, and they'll see, like, oh, the stats are pretty good, was an all-star in 2024, like, had a very good first half of the year in 2025 before a slight dip in production, and has kind of maintained sort of similar numbers for almost a 2.5 year period here. Like, I think there's a lot of teams around the league that are looking at him like, okay, like, this is a strong bat, and this is someone who, is okay defensively, because I think in his defensive metrics, he's not lower, but if you look at the advanced stats, it's a little brutal, but his just general defensive stats are okay. I think that there's a lot of teams that are willing to kind of sacrifice okay defense for a good quality bat, which Ramos, in the aggregate and as the season goes on, like, is a pretty good bat.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to blow up the farm system. Like you're getting
Yeah.
an all-star, a capable all-star type player with his bat, right? With Ramos, but you don't have to give up a ton of prospects, right? And I think that would be he's also a cheap player, so I think that'd be a really attractive asset for a lot of teams. Great mention there. I kind of hope
You have any good
I don't
you have any good fits
I
for
think
him?
who could use an outfield piece? Dude, Atlanta? Like they're fitting
Interesting.
in They're fitting in Yastrzemski right now, who hasn't swung a great bat, but he's been pretty good defensively. Obviously, we know Yaz very well. They throw Dubon out there now and then. Like Atlanta could use him, maybe.
A lot of former Giants on Atlanta, if that were to be the case.
And Atlanta too. They're looking to. You could say stay pat. You're 37-18 right now. You're clearly up there with the Rays as two of the best teams in the league. But at the same time, you could also be thinking like, let's go all in
Right.
and really separate ourselves here. So
And I
that would
mean,
be
Ramos is also a younger piece for them, right? I mean, he's not like kind of one of these old veteran bats that you have to give up. Like, he's someone you could
right.
potentially invest in the future. You could sell it as like we're investing in the future. We're investing in kind of our future core to build to be a piece and a pillar that kind of builds around here. This isn't just like not to pick on Mike Yastrzemski, but this isn't just a Mike Yastrzemski deal, right? This isn't just like he's here for a couple years and he's gone. No, this could be a guy who could be in Atlanta for a long time. So I think he has a lot of value in that sense, just because of his age and kind of the potential that's sort of been untapped with him.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll wrap up with our final segment of the night. All right, welcome back. We're going to end on a bright spot. It's been a lot of negative, been a lot of digging the players, letting guys go via trade. We're gonna have some silver linings here. Let's bring out the bright spots of the season. These are guys you're looking forward to watching the rest of the season, despite how it goes, or guys you're just looking for, or just you're happy that they're balling out right now. That you're enjoying them right now in this moment.
Well, there's one obvious silver lining, and that guy is Casey Schmidt. I mean, this guy coming into this year, he didn't really have a fit on the roster. I think he was kind of seen as sort of that Tyler Fitzgerald utility role guy, of someone who could kind of play anything and anywhere whenever they needed him. And I remember there was an interview on 95.7 The Game earlier in the year where someone, or one of the hosts, kind of asked him, like, so how do you feel about playing everywhere? And Casey basically said something along the lines of, I do what I got to do, and I listen to my coaches and play wherever I need to play. And that kind of attitude, I believe, has served him so well this year. Obviously he's got 12 home runs heading into June, which if you had told me that Casey Schmidt had 12 home runs heading into June, I would have thought this team is either hurt or you were crazy, like, coming into this year. Like, I did not foresee him getting that many at-bats to get 12 home runs. So he's been scorching, and it's not just the home runs that have been the big one with Casey Schmidt. To me, it's been his at-bat quality. I mean, when it comes down to it, at least when Casey Schmidt first came up, he would swing at the rosin bag. I mean, he used to just swing at every single pitch that was thrown his way, whether it was high, low, off the zone, in the zone, whatever it was. Like, he just used to swing every pitch, and there was a lot of 3-pitch strikeouts there, and it looked bad for a minute. But I think recently, like, he's learned to kind of just like trust his eyes a little bit, sort of, take a lot of really good pitches. And I think I don't know if he leads the Giants in walks, but he's one of the leaders in the team in walks. I mean, he's kind of flipped the script really when it comes to his like being able to see pitches, being able to, identify which pitches to swing at. And also, like we talked about this earlier, taking advantage of the mistakes that pitchers are throwing. We kind of compared Casey to Chapman, where Chapman is very, there will be mistakes that pitchers throw to Chapman, but Chapman will be late on them. And oftentimes they'll go foul or they'll go back and things like that. But when Casey sees a mistake, he's punishing pitchers, whether it's, doubles down the line or homers or just productive hits that are getting guys on base or scoring. I mean, he's been an RBI and kind of home run machine for this team. And the stat is he's had a home run at shortstop, first base, DH, third base. Like, he's been a hell of a player for this team. And he's been, I would not be shocked to see him in the All-Star game come July. Been a very good season and kind of a bright spot in an otherwise pretty dark season for the Giants.
Yeah, Schmidt is been a huge bright spot on this dim team. He leads the Giants in home runs, RBIs, slugging percentage, WRC plus. The average on base percentage goes to Luis Ariz, of course. But he's been an absolute stud. Yeah, first players in Giants history to have a home run at all those positions you mentioned, since some guy that none of us have heard of in like the early 1900s, I think.
Yep.
I think that was the stat or something like that. Yeah, great pick. My player that I'm excited to watch going forward is Landon Roop. He has been fantastic on the bump. He has been the Logan Webb when he hasn't really appeared this year, obviously battling an injury, which we get back pretty soon. I think he was great last year, and then he went cold because he was battling an injury, and then we never saw him again due to the IL. So hopefully if he stays healthy this year, he can prove he can do it for a full season. That's what I'm really hoping for. Bit of some rough starts as of late, but I mean, for a guy that reminds me of a lot of Logan Webb with using that sinker to front door lefties, backdoor righties, and be able to get the ground ball outs, but still be able to accumulate the strikeouts. He's got 10 Ks per nine. His walks per nine are still around 3, but I think if he can lower that down, that ERA will drop to him. He's rocking a 3.3 ERA through 11 starts, 60 innings pitched. I'm not sure I'm ready to see him to say he's an ace. I'm not there yet, but I really like him as a 2 or like a really awesome 3 going forward. If we can get him as like the 3 guy and pair someone awesome with Webb in the future, okay, maybe a Jackson Flora, maybe at the number 4 pick out of UC at Santa Barbara. That'd be a future pod to break down the draft. But I really like Landon Roop. Again, he's got that ability to get out of jams when he gets himself with that sinker to get that double play ball. It's such a huge asset. But he's been awesome. He's a guy that can just dominate. Another guy that's been great against the Dodgers too, as of late. So Landon Roop is my other pick. All right. Loop and Schmidt, I would say the 2 obvious guys are off the table. Anuj, do you have another one?
Yeah. Let me think. But this one's kind of a sneaky one, and we talked about this earlier, but Drew Gilbert. I know the stats don't show it. I know that the batting average is not great, and that, he looks more like a 3rd or a 4th outfielder, more like a 4th outfielder than anything. But I do enjoy kind of watching his defense in particular. He's got a cannon of an arm, and I feel like he's got a lot of raw potential in there. He when his at-bats click, they can click. He has produced some clutch RBI situations this year. When he can, when he's in position, he can throw the ball and kind of force some outs from the outfield. And I feel like there is a lot of potential there with him. And I think that, if as we project the Giants sell, I think we're going to see a lot more Drew Gilbert in the outfield. And I think that this is going to give him a good amount of time. It's good, to maybe potentially show what he's got, rather than being in kind of this platoon sort of like mishmash role where he's playing, he's not, you know how it is. And yeah, he's somebody that potentially I could be excited for. I'm a lot higher on Drew Gilbert than I think the majority of the fan base is, because I like his defense a lot. And I think that offensively, I could see a potential transformation like a Casey Schmidt. And maybe it's just I'm high on the Schmidt train right now.
Who
But yeah,
isn't?
definitely. I know. But
Who
definitely
isn't,
could
man?
see
If you're not,
could
you
see
should. You're late.
yes,
Way too
exactly.
late.
But could see a
He
potential with Gilbert as
Yeah.
well.
He handled center field just fine out there when Bader missed time and he came
Yeah.
up. Yeah, good pick. The question will be, can he hit lefties? That'll be the
Yes.
huge question for Gilbert. Because yeah, he's exciting. Plus, he brings speed, which is a skill set that our roster
Yeah.
doesn't really have much of.
Right.
So
He has
that
the tools, but can he put it together?
totally,
That's the real question. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
All right, my next guy is kind of like my last guy that I'm really looking forward to. I would say those first two, this guy and then Drew Gilbert, is if we're gonna sell and we're gonna trade some pieces away, playing time will become open, at bats will become more open. I think that means it has to be more at bats for Bryce Eldridge, and a full season of Bryce Eldridge is going to give us a lot of information. There's plenty of examples of guys who have been awesome prospects that have fallen off. They've been awesome prospects up until they got to the majors and they just couldn't figure it out. There's been guys who have gotten great starts and then kind of teetered off, becoming bench roles, platoon guys. And I want to know what Bryce Eldridge brings to the table. He's had a lot of loud outs in the last couple weeks. He's had a lot of impressive hits, high velocity hits. He's shown he's still going to strike out. He's shown that. He's also shown he can work at bats. He can work counts. He can get to walks. He can find different ways to get on base. He's also shown he's incredibly tall, and I don't know when the last Giants player was 6'7". I'm just really excited to see what he can put on display for this team when there's not much to root for in going forward.
The reason I would pick Eldridge is because it was like silver linings of like what we've seen. And I think with Eldridge, it's such a question mark as to what we're going to see. But yeah, the potential to gather more data and kind of develop more of a nuanced, sort of educated opinion on what he's going to become is it's very exciting, and I think is one of the things that we have to look forward to as Giants fans, considering it's looking pretty bleak record wise at least.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk World Cup real quick?
Oh yeah. You want to give you 2 minutes on the World Cup? We got the World Cup coming to our hometown.
Our hometown, but also to the
State.
U.S.
Yeah,
yeah,
true.
and Mexico and Canada. So yeah, first World Cup I believe in North America since '94, and it's a big one for the United States men's national team. I mean, this is a team that has the quote unquote golden generation kind of coming into their prime this year. Had a interesting 2022 World Cup. There was thought to be some stuff to build on, but had a very disappointing showing at Copa America in 2024. For those of you that don't know, that's the tournament equivalent to the Euros in America with all the North American and South American teams. The U.S. crashed out in the group stage of that tournament, so it wasn't very good. It wasn't quite to the expectation that the Golden Generation had, but now they have a new manager, Mauricio Pochettino, who is a soccer legend. He's a guy who's managed Tottenham Hotspur and I want to say PSG as well. So someone who has managed some of the high-level clubs of Europe, coming to manage the U.S. men's national team. And it's filled with a core that's very interesting. I mean, they've entered their primes. A lot of this is the most talented core the United States has ever had in terms of their men's national team. And a lot of guys who can play a multitude of different positions. USMNT fans probably are not as optimistic on this roster as I am, because they think that, there's too many MLS guys, this, that, and the other, and we could go down a rabbit hole. That's not for this podcast, maybe another one. But overall, there's a lot of very interesting storylines with the U.S. men's national team, and I encourage everyone to watch, because I think that soccer is a developing sport in this country, and I think if you want to root for a true underdog and someone that in a team, if you want to get on the bandwagon early, is what I'm saying. Like, if you want to get on the bandwagon early, I think that would be the time, this 2026 World Cup, to see what these guys are made of, and I think it could get pretty interesting.
I had a lot of fun watching the World Cup in the past years, even when the U.S., I think they had a big a couple big group stage wins that got him into the tournament.
Mhm.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to
Ton of
watch.
fun.
And it's a great way to learn the game too, because there's a lot of soccer and there's a lot of player movement. It can get confusing, but if you just sit down, watch the game, watch the best of the best go at it. The past couple World Cups have been awesome. It's not like the Super Bowl where the 9 times out of 10 the games suck.
Yeah.
So usually they're pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
definitely recommend. And as Anuj mentioned, it's probably the most loved worldwide sport in the entire world
Yeah.
compared to other sports for sure.
I mean,
But yeah,
it's the world's game. So,
it
yeah.
is the world's game, and
Yeah.
we're well behind as a country, so we need more.
100%.
We need
And
more. We need more into
and maybe if the United States makes a little bit of a run here, I mean, it could have the potential of making an effect on,
Yeah, just need a
more
run.
interest.
Just need a run.
Yeah. Just
Just
win a
need a
couple
run.
games and all of a sudden, who knows?
Boom.
So
Making
let's see.
noise. That's
Yeah.
right.
That's all you
That's
can
right.
ask for.
All right, well, Anuj, thank you so much for being on, man. It was awesome talking
course.
baseball. We talked so much off camera. It
I
was
know.
great to get on the mics. Both of us being podcasters. Hopefully we have better, more positive conversations going forward. Maybe we talk about some of the assets we get back in the trade deadline going
Yeah.
forward. We'll definitely have you back on. Anuj,
Absolutely.
is there anywhere we should be following all your work?
I don't necessarily have any active social media right now, but at the Changavi Show everywhere, you can go ahead and follow.
All right, well, regardless, we'll have him back on sometime during this season. Be sure to check out The Rewind on Instagram. That's the best way to stay up to date with all of the episodes and content at @TheRewind_pod. YouTube, you can now watch us talk about all of our ideas on YouTube now, as well as listening to it on Spotify at The Rewind with Spencer Tracy, or on YouTube at The Rewind with Spencer Tracy. Be sure to check all those out. I appreciate all the support, and I will see you guys on the next episode.